1059 The Region, everywhere you are.
Without question, the big story, the Queen's funeral, as she makes her way to her final resting place with throngs of hundreds of thousands of people lining downtown London, throwing flowers and paying their respects to the Queen, someone who knows the Queen intimately from previous conversations. The pride of Markham, one of the great broadcasters this country's ever produced, Mr. Lloyd Robertson joining me today. Lloyd, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Jim. I'm fine, thank you.
Well, I mean, you had a front row seat to the kind of person the Queen is. You've interviewed her many times. For a lot of people, they have this image of the royal family and monarchy, but from what you know, from your time speaking to her, it seems like the Queen in a lot of ways was a regular person, Lloyd.
Well, I have to just say one point there, Jim, to qualify a little bit. No one actually interviews the Queen. She's never been interviewed, but you do meet her on media tours, and I did several times with my other colleagues from the media. And she is diminutive, but there is wisdom in her eyes. She has a wonderful smile, and she does remember things about you. I remember going back 2 or 3 times after meeting her the first time, and she would ask about the family, and she is very inquisitive, and she does engage you. She looks right at you, shakes your hand, and engages you. It's not just someone who's listening and hoping you'll move on. She knows how to do that in a very intimate manner. And I was always impressed by her manner whenever I had the opportunity to meet her, which I guess was about 4 or 5 times perhaps, at various royal tours through Canada and also overseas a couple of times at Buckingham Palace.
And you look back at the depth and breadth of your career, Lloyd, and do you look at that and how privileged you are to have had that time with the Queen that often?
Well, I like to say that I had a front row seat to history, Jim, and we're seeing that this morning. And, as I put this in perspective in my own life, I was 6 years old when my father hoisted me onto his shoulders when the royal train was coming through Stratford, Ontario, where I grew up, and the King and Queen, the Queen Mum and King George VI, were at the back of the train on the platform waving to the crowds. They were making a tour at that time, their first royal tour of Canada, coming through to help get support for World War II, which we all knew was about to begin. And, of course, London suffered greatly during that period. Princess Elizabeth came here as the princess in 1951 for the first time, and then as the Queen 22 times, more than any other Commonwealth country. And what strikes me about this morning is the number of Canadian elements all through the procession and through the service. The Mounties leading the parade. Now, we don't have it on the best of authority, but we do have it that the Queen said, I want the Mounties leading the parade. And I think she might have done that because through her mother, the Queen developed a real love for this country. You remember that many, many years ago, it was Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, who said, Canada made us. And what she meant by that was that the tours here, when she came here with her husband, King George VI, she became so friendly with so many Canadians. They opened their arms to her, and she opened their arms to us. And there became a realization that the royals really liked this place. They felt it was a second home to them. And one time when she was in Washington, she was asked where she was going from there, and she turned to the questioner and she said, I'm going home. I'm going home to Canada. And I think that's how she came to feel about this place as her mother and father did. And now, as they approach Windsor in the royal hearse this morning at this very hour, she will be joining her mother and her father and her sister Margaret in the royal vault there at St. George's Chapel in Windsor. So we're witnessing the end of an era today for many of us, because this has been, in so many ways, the royal family and Queen Elizabeth and the members of the royal family overall, they've been the soundtrack to our lives. Many of us have, and I can't include myself in that because I've seen 4 monarchs through my lifetime, born during King George V, lived briefly through King Edward VIII, and then on through all the years of George VI and Queen Elizabeth. But to most people alive today, Queen Elizabeth II was the only one, the only monarch they have ever known. And you saw that appreciation and that sense of warmth and love overflow in London and around the Commonwealth over these last several days of mourning for the Queen. Look at those lineups, 24 hours long in London, to get in to see her. That's the kind of affection that just doesn't come by accident. It comes because the Queen has meant something to them through the years. She's been a standard bearer for decency, modesty, humility, and at the same time, what we would describe in politics as soft power. You know, she doesn't really have any hard power, but she does advise, and she is questioned about things by leaders of the Commonwealth countries, especially British prime ministers, and she advises them on things. But that's the role of the monarchy in this age, and she did everything superbly. So I think what we're mourning today, and in a sense celebrating, is this terrific life. This woman who was bound and determined to do her duty from the time she made that pledge when she was 29 years old, that I will be in your service for as long or as short as my life may be. She did that, and she did it superbly. No one could have done it better. We're seeing, I think it's safe to say, as people often say about someone, we will never see her like again.
As well. Wise words. Lloyd, thank you so much for your insight. I mean, we're seeing every prime minister this country's ever had from 93 getting together, sort of all that partisan politics put aside in honor of the Queen. And I think that's the kind of day and kind of week and weekend it's been, Lloyd.
Yes, indeed. Well, look at the symbolism of that too, Jim. I mean, that means that the crown is above politics, above partisan politics. That's what she came to represent. That's why they're all there today.
Lloyd, thank you so much for your insight. Greatly appreciate it. All the best.
Thank you, Jim. Same to you.